Welcome, treasured viewers, to another enlightening episode on the Kingdom Treasures channel. Today, we delve into a fascinating tale from the Bible that showcases God's power to humble even the mightiest of rulers. We'll explore the extraordinary transformation of King Nebuchadnezzar, a story that teaches us profound lessons about pride, humility, and divine sovereignty. As we journey through this biblical narrative, we'll uncover the deep spiritual truths hidden within. To truly appreciate this story, we must first understand who Nebuchadnezzar was. Ruling over the Neo-Babylonian Empire from approximately 605 to 562 BCE, Nebuchadnezzar was one of the most powerful monarchs of his time. Nebuchadnezzar's achievements were nothing short of remarkable. As a builder, he was responsible for the creation of the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. But the king's prowess extended far beyond architecture. He was a formidable military strategist, expanding his empire through conquest. In 605 BCE, he defeated the Egyptians at the Battle of Carchemish. With such monumental achievements, it's little wonder that Nebuchadnezzar's heart swelled with pride. He saw himself as the architect of his own greatness, forgetting that all power ultimately comes from God. God, in his infinite wisdom, chose to communicate with Nebuchadnezzar through dreams. One of the most significant and early of these prophetic visions occurred during the initial years of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. In this dream, Nebuchadnezzar witnessed an awe-inspiring and colossal statue. This monumental statue was crafted with different materials, each symbolizing a distinct empire. Deeply troubled and perplexed by this enigmatic vision, Nebuchadnezzar was eager to uncover its meaning. He turned to his advisors and wise men, but none could provide the insight he desperately sought. It was Daniel, a young Jewish exile renowned for his wisdom and divine favor, who stepped forward with the dream's interpretation. With divine guidance, Daniel explained that the different parts of the statue represented successive kingdoms that would rise and fall. Nebuchadnezzar's own kingdom of Babylon was unveiled as the golden head, symbolizing its current greatness, splendor, and majesty. The stone, Daniel revealed, was not just any element, but represented God's eternal kingdom. This kingdom, rooted in divine power and wisdom, would ultimately surpass and triumph over all earthly powers and realms. This interpretation delivered by Daniel served as both a compliment and a stark warning to Nebuchadnezzar. It acknowledged the king's current greatness and the historic significance of his reign, yet it also reminded him of the temporary nature of his power. The prophecy foretold that while Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom might shine brightly as gold at present, it would eventually give way to succeeding empires. Ultimately, it emphasized the supremacy and enduring nature of God's kingdom, which is eternal and invincible. Years later, God sent Nebuchadnezzar another dream, one that would have far more immediate and personal consequences. In this vision, recorded in Daniel 4, the king saw an enormous tree reaching to the heavens, visible to the ends of the earth. The tree was beautiful, with abundant fruit that provided food for all. But then, a heavenly messenger appeared, commanding, "Cut down the tree and trim off its branches, strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit." The messenger continued, declaring that the one represented by the tree would be driven away from people and live like a wild animal for 7 years until he acknowledged the sovereignty of the Most High. Once again, Daniel was called to interpret. With great trepidation, he explained to Nebuchadnezzar that he was the tree in the dream. Daniel warned the king that unless he repented of his pride and practiced righteousness, he would be cut down and humbled by God. In this moment, we see God's mercy at work. Despite Nebuchadnezzar's arrogance, the Lord provided a clear warning and an opportunity for repentance. It was an invitation to humility, a chance for the king to recognize the true source of his power and glory. Tragically, Nebuchadnezzar did not heed Daniel's warning. 12 months after the dream, the king was walking on the roof of his royal palace, surveying the grandeur of Babylon. In a moment of extreme hubris, he exclaimed, "Is not this the great Babylon I have built as the royal residence, by my mighty power, and for the glory of my majesty. Daniel 4:30. The words had barely left his lips when a voice from heaven declared that the kingdom had been taken from him. In that instant, the mighty Nebuchadnezzar, conqueror of nations and builder of wonders, was struck with a bizarre affliction. The king's mind was changed from that of a man to that of an animal. He was driven away from people and ate grass like cattle. His body was drenched with the dew of heaven, and his hair grew like the feathers of an eagle, and his nails like the claws of a bird. This strange transformation served as a powerful symbol. Nebuchadnezzar, who had exalted himself above his fellow man, and even above God, was now reduced to a state lower than human. For 7 long years, Nebuchadnezzar lived in this humbled state. The number 7 is significant in biblical numerology, often representing completeness or perfection. These 7 years were a complete cycle of divine discipline, designed to thoroughly purge the king of his pride. During this time, Nebuchadnezzar learned vital lessons that God intended for him, and for us. He experienced firsthand the frailty of human power and the fleeting nature of earthly glory. In his animal-like state, he came to understand that true wisdom and authority belong to God alone. This period also served as a powerful object lesson to the Babylonian people and surrounding nations. The mighty king who had subdued many lands was himself subdued by the King of Kings. It was a testament to the truth declared in Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. He directs it like a watercourse wherever he pleases. As we consider Nebuchadnezzar's 7 years of humiliation, we might ask ourselves, what areas of pride in our own lives might God need to address? Are there aspects of our character that require divine intervention to transform? At the end of the appointed time, a remarkable change occurred. The Bible tells us in Daniel 4:34, "At the end of that time, I, Nebuchadnezzar, raised my eyes toward heaven, and my sanity was restored. Then I praised the Most High. I honored and glorified him who lives forever." This moment marked a profound shift in Nebuchadnezzar's heart and mind. The king, who once saw himself as the source of his own greatness, now recognized the sovereignty of God. His words of praise continued. His dominion is an eternal dominion. His kingdom endures from generation to generation. All the peoples of the earth are regarded as nothing. He does as he pleases with the powers of heaven and the peoples of the earth. No one can hold back his hand or say to him, "What have you done?" Daniel 4:34-35. The transformation was complete. Nebuchadnezzar's pride had been replaced with humility, his self-glorification with praise for the Almighty. This dramatic change illustrates the power of true repentance and the incredible work God can do in a heart that turns to Him. In His great mercy, God did not leave Nebuchadnezzar in his humbled state. Once the king acknowledged the Lord's sovereignty, his kingdom and glory were restored to him. In fact, the Bible tells us that Nebuchadnezzar became even greater than before. This restoration demonstrates an important aspect of God's character. While He opposes the proud, He gives grace to the humble. The Lord's discipline, though sometimes severe, is always aimed at redemption rather than destruction. Nebuchadnezzar's new perspective on God's sovereignty transformed his approach to leadership. He now understood that his power and position were gifts from God, to be used in service of the divine will rather than for personal glorification. This part of the story invites us to consider, how might our lives and leadership change if we truly embraced God's sovereignty? What would it look like to hold our positions, talents, and achievements with open hands, recognizing them as gifts from above? These ancient truths remain profoundly relevant in our modern context. In a world that often celebrates self-promotion and personal achievement, Nebuchadnezzar's story calls us to a different path, one of humility, gratitude, and acknowledgment of God's sovereignty. As we close, I encourage you to reflect on areas of pride in your own life. Are there aspects of your character or circumstances where you need to acknowledge God's authority? Remember, just as with Nebuchadnezzar, God's discipline in our lives is always aimed at our ultimate good and His glory. Thank you for joining us for another thought-provoking Bible story here on Kingdom Treasures. If you've found value in today's exploration, please consider subscribing to our channel for more insightful content. Until next time, may we all grow in humility and in our recognition of God's sovereignty over our lives.